right, we are rolling. I am Matt at Fantasy Fair on Twitter, and I am here with my man Richmond, and we are going to talk some injuries. But first, Richmond, how was your fantasy week?
Mine was actually really good, much better than it's been the last few weeks. I'm not sure of my exact uh, record from this week, but my team's put it together. I think out of my about 7 leagues, I think I won 4 or 5 of them.
Not
So
bad.
pretty good week.
Not bad. I am also doing good, but unfortunately, the injury bug has hit me hard in my home league. My first 4 rounds of picks were Javante Williams, DeAndre Swift, Kyle Pitts, and then Brees Hall. So about a month ago, I was feeling okay, even with Pitts not really playing well, and now it's just I'm throwing like Tyler Algier out there as my starting running back, and just trying to
he
see what I can do. It's not looking great.
he wasn't a bad move this past
He
week.
wasn't, but it's tough when he's probably the best option I have at running back right now. So, but we'll see. We're gonna keep trying. We play to the whistle here, so we're not giving up on the season just yet. Um, I guess let's start with the big injury of the week, the Cooper Cup. We were talking about it before the show started, and it's kind of tough to tell what exactly happened to his ankle. Really slowed it down and looked, but what are we kind of thinking right now?
I guess it's like we were talking about. It depends on whether it's a high ankle sprain, a low ankle sprain. Um, Low ankle sprain, he'll probably bounce back pretty quickly from. It's kind of one of those things where we'll just have to monitor how he's doing through practice through the week to see where he'll likely turn out for Sunday. Um, with him, I don't know. It's hard to tell with how their season's going to determine whether he's the guy who'll try and push through and try and play, or if maybe take a step back and be cautious.
I mean, this really is a must-win week for them. I
Yeah.
mean, pretty much going forward, every game's must win. So I mean, wouldn't be surprised to see him gut it out this week, and then if they lose and it's kind of re-aggravate, okay, now we'll kind of shut it down, throttle it down. There's just a lot of moving parts there that make it tough with Cooper Cup going forward. I mean, I just don't know, and I don't really have. I know we're called the next man up, but Allen Robinson, is that who we're going to? If
I mean, Van Jefferson's back. He stepped up a few games last year, I believe. Nobody I'd want to stake my
I
my
just don't.
name on.
Yeah, I
So
don't feel good about any of the options. I mean, really, right now, Cooper Cup is the only fantasy option on the
Higby,
Rams and Higby. Maybe
Higby as a
Higby
tight
just
end
gets
potentially.
even more targets.
Yeah, if I was going to choose a man there, it might be Higby that gets more targets, but otherwise, there's very slim pickings there.
I'm with you. I guess we'll just kind of have to wait and see how it plays out. He was a non-participant today. We'll see if he practices tomorrow or Friday, and just hope for the best. Another guy, Irv Smith, out 8 to 10 weeks with a high ankle sprain, and it looks like Minnesota just went right to the well and said, "All right, well, we're trading for Hawkinson." So, I mean, that's exciting for Minnesota, but kind of shows what I guess Irv Smith's future with the team will be.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's telltale for Irv Smith's future, and I think it's also kind of interesting for the state of Hawkinson himself as a guy there. I mean, he went from being 1A, 1B to your boy Amon Ra, and now he's where in the lineup?
I mean, he's definitely behind Jefferson and Dalvin Cook, and After that, I mean, you could argue that he's better than Thielen is at this point, and
Yeah.
probably the third option on that team, which was kind of where he was at in Detroit right now. So it doesn't really seem like much has changed in the way of Hawkinson's fantasy value.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully he slots into a similar position and they use him a similar way. I think that's the biggest thing with tight ends is how are they being used? I mean, there's a lot of different ways to scheme them. So, I
Sure.
mean, look at Kyle Pitts. I mean, last year running free as a wide receiver, and this year he's apparently a offensive lineman. So,
Oh my gosh, don't get me started on Pitts. But yeah, it's just I know. I mean, I for one, it is funny to look back at last year when people were saying Amon-Ra only was doing good because Hawkinson and Swift are out, and now it's probably arguable that because of Amon-Ra, Detroit felt they could get rid of Hawkinson. So
yeah,
just a little funny. And then one more ankle injury. Mike Evans popped up on the injury report today. He was kind of limited in practice. There's not really a lot of reports over exactly what the injury is, except for it is an ankle injury. So hard to tell if this is just kind of soreness. And so they were going to make him limited today, and so they had to put something on the injury report, or what's going on. I mean, the fact that he was limited and not just a non-participant, I'm not super worried about him. Are you?
no, I mean at this point, when is Mike Evans not on the
Right.
injury report somewhere? I mean, I feel
He's,
like he spent most of his career on the injury report, so
he's
and he
kind of
still
hit that.
manages to come out and play.
He's kind of hit that Julio Jones later career, not Julio Jones now, but 3 years ago, Julio Jones. I'm always on the injury report, but I'm still going to go out there and ball out.
Yeah,
So, um, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for ankles. Cooper Cup's the big one. Irv Smith, I mean, he was good for fantasy for a little bit, but Hawkinson's the dude there at tight end now. We had some hamstring injuries, especially one on Thursday night where Gus Edwards, who was looking great, kind of strained his hamstring and kind of lucky. I don't know if you saw the injury, but he kind of hyperextended his knee a little bit
yeah,
when it happened. And so, in my opinion, he's kind of lucky that all he ended up with was a hamstring strain and didn't re-tear something or a little bit more serious going on there.
yeah. I mean, I don't remember how exactly he tore his ACL last year, but I mean, hyperextension on a repaired ACL is a little bit of a scary premise. But then, I mean, again, look at this rash of NFL guys hamstring injuries post ACL.
We see it often. We see it often, and we always. I mean, I know us on the show last year, we were hammering that home. Like that's a risk coming back from ACL injury is more of these soft tissue hamstring injuries that you'll see. I mean,
Yeah,
and
I
they're
mean, a lot of times, I mean, ACLs. I mean, it's hard to attribute them to one thing, but I mean, weak hamstrings can definitely play a part in there. And then sometimes with the rehab process, not getting back. I mean, everybody hammers the quad, which is important, but hamstring is pretty important to get back too. And not a lot of people hammer the hamstrings the way they hammer the quad. So
it does tend to get a little forgotten in the rehab process from ACL, but it sounds like it's not a terrible hamstring injury, but they also play on Monday night, so I'm not relying on Gus Edwards going forward. Uh, if you
no, it's
wanna roll the dice and have Kenyon Drake as your RB going forward, I mean, could pay off or it could just blow up in your face. It's hard to tell.
yeah, I don't think the Ravens' backfield is a little bit hard to trust, anyways. So I mean, everybody thought Kenyon Drake was the guy 2 weeks ago. Kenyon Drake was a big bust. Turn around this week, all of a sudden Kenyon Drake is nothing great, but he had a touchdown and he had some decent yards on the ground. So Kenyon Drake, when you thought he was going to be good, was not. Kenyon Drake, when you didn't expect it, was. So
Yeah, it's like that. It's like Michael Scott on The Office. Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap. They're just going back and forth with their running backs. So I don't know. They're Baltimore. I mean, Lamar Jackson is the dude there going forward. I mean, and then one more. Noah Fant popped up on the injury report today, limited with a hamstring. So almost just sounds more like some hamstring tightness going on, not even really a strain. Limited. Um, he's not super fantasy relevant right now in Seattle, but
no.
worth mentioning because there's worse tight ends to be. I mean, I'm sure he's outscored Pitts most weeks, so there's that. Uh, let's move on though. Metcalf ended up playing for Seattle and looked pretty good out there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think that's a good sign that he was last week was just a big question mark and was just kind of like to see where he's at. I think at this point, I mean, as far as fantasy goes, he's got to play him. I mean,
Yeah.
he's out there. You have to play him. As far as real life consideration goes, I mean, it's definitely something to watch as the season goes on for him. But I mean, this is fantasy world, and if he's on the field, he's catching the ball. So
Yeah, him and Tyler Lockett are pretty much must starts if they're out there.
yeah, I mean, 10 targets, you can't argue with that. So
No, it's just I think it says two things about him. One, tough, tough. Because I mean, going off the reports from last week where they were just like, well, it's not going to require surgery. Like it was pretty ominous.
yeah,
It was like, wait, what? What is that? What does that mean? But then I feel like we sort of talked through it and said, it's probably just a slight patellar tendon strain that he had, and I feel like we said if he plays, you're playing him,
yeah,
and so look at that, look at that. Sometimes we is smirk or something. Also worth mentioning, Cordero Patterson returned to practice from his weird, ambiguous knee injury that I don't feel like we ever really got a report over what it was. But
no. So he'll be, yeah, he's another guy. If he's in the game, you fire him up.
I
If he
agree.
makes it in, so
I agree, which feels weird to say, but um, and they're also playing. I mean, they're the number one seed in their division right now, Atlanta.
yeah, they
At
are. I mean, I
four and
wouldn't say
four.
they're 4-4. Yeah, so
So I mean, they are playing for something. They're not
yeah,
just trying to rest their people.
yeah. I mean,
Who would have
that's
thought that before the season we would be having the conversation halfway that Cooper Cup might get throttled down because the Rams really aren't competing, and that Atlanta would be playing playing people because they have a shot at the playoffs.
yeah.
God,
Marcus Mariota, of course.
that's the way the NFL goes, huh? Um, let's see. I guess let's move on to kind of the big uh emphasis on big running back that popped up on the injury report today. Derrick Henry. Do you know anything about what's going on with that? Popped up with a
Yeah,
foot issue.
yeah. I couldn't find too much details on what it is, and I think it's because kind of like a late late issue, so it's hard for anybody to get too much information to put out there on him.
Yeah, I haven't even heard which foot it is, if it's the same foot he broke last year. Yeah, I mean, it was very, very no information. Did he stub his toe today? Like, step on a Lego? I don't, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, there's really it's nothing out there but Derrick Henry foot.
Yeah. The good news is he was limited though.
Yeah.
So he wasn't on DNP. He was limited. So that's good news. Shouldn't be anything too serious, but definitely something to keep an eye on as we go forward.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely somebody who if he's going to play, he's playing. He's in your lineup.
I mean,
Um,
he's been crushing it.
yeah. So it's just something to keep an eye on. I mean, it might just be hey, my foot feels funny. All right, you're not practicing, or you're limited.
Right. I mean,
I
that's
mean,
what I'm saying. I'm
you got to
holding
protect your
down the
workhorse.
theory. I'm holding on to the theory. Does he have kids? I don't know if Derrick Henry has kids.
I don't have a good
Let's
answer for that
assume
one.
he hobbies as a Lego enthusiast. He dropped one on the ground and he stepped on it, and so he had a little bruise on the bottom of his foot, and they were limiting him today. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. The one that really pisses me off, Rashad Bateman,
Yeah,
who played last week. Um, God, I don't, and that's another reason I don't trust the Ravens anymore.
so I was a longtime Marquise Brown hater, and he was on a lot of my teams, and
Mm-hmm.
I hated playing him because when I benched him, he went off. When I played him, he did nothing. Inconsistency was crazy. And now here you are with Bateman. Marquise Brown is shipped off to the Cardinals, and Bateman steps right into the role of, am I going to show up today or am I not?
Yeah, I don't. Apparently, he re-aggravated his foot during the game. Now they're saying he's going to be out multiple weeks. So, and in the meantime, Devin Duvernay looking actually pretty solid out there.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the other guy also later, but I mean they have some solid depth. The guys who can catch the ball in the
Mhm.
Ravens.
Yes, they do. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's bring up Mark Andrews and
All right.
his shoulder injury that he suffered during the game. Do you have any thoughts on what actually he injured?
Um, I'm not really sure what it was that he actually injured out there. I didn't see. I mean, I think they said it's not supposed to be too serious, but he could miss a little bit. It's probably another AC joint sprain. AC joint sprains could be slight or they could be multiple weeks. It's hard to say with an AC joint sprain if that is what it is. Just depends on the degree. I mean, I've seen guys have AC joint sprains in a few days. There's no issue. I
Mm.
mean, I know some people have had AC joint sprains and it's kept them out for a month plus. I
I
mean,
mean, it's kind of what we think DeAndre Swift had,
yeah,
and it's still bugging him. So, especially with Mark Andrews having to reach up and catch balls, that can.
yeah. I mean, for him too. I mean, my big concern with AC joint sprain is pressing, like horizontal pressing. It's kind of like the overhead reach. Um, Anybody? I mean, I know I did a pretty good number to my AC joint sprain or my AC joint in college. I couldn't bench press for months, at least 6 months. I couldn't even do the bar. So you think Mark Andrews having to come off the line and push somebody around? That's gonna be hard.
That's tough. That's tough. Um, yeah, but also tough with once again Baltimore plays Monday night. If Andrews is playing, you're playing him, but you don't necessarily want to wait till Monday to figure it out, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, unless you have Isaiah Likely on your roster, I mean, if you have Isaiah Likely, I mean, you feel pretty good about waiting. If not, it's hard. It's hard to stick around.
Yeah, that I mean I agree. I think if you can go pick up Likely, put him on your bench, and if Andrews plays, All right, good. If Andrews doesn't play, you switch him out for Likely. Also good. But the way Likely's been playing, who knows if he's actually available in the league or in your league
Yeah.
or not.
If he's available, you grab him right now.
Yeah. So that's tough. I don't know. It's the whole Baltimore injured. Literally, like the only offensive position that's not injured is quarterback. And knock on wood that 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 stays that way, because who knows at that point what would happen there. Let's see. I mentioned DeAndre Swift sort of there. He didn't participate today. So
Yeah, I mean,
it's just
they had some weird quotes about him today, I think, saying like he wasn't ready. They gave him too many carries. So
he had 5 carries.
yep. So he's somebody who I'd be concerned
Yeah, DeAndre Swift,
with.
he scares me going forward. Like, I mean, speaking of teams that aren't really playing for anything. Like, I know the Lions play hard, but at some point it's like, well, DeAndre is still a part of our future. Why don't we just kind of shut him down a little bit? Let's roll out Jamal Williams.
Yeah, I mean, Jamal Williams looked really good. And then you have DeAndre Swift, who has ankle injury, shoulder injury. Don't really know the total picture of what's going on with him. I think there's a lot going on with him. So
I agree.
I mean, he has these ankle injuries in addition to the shoulder injury. So you're going to put a guy out there who has no feet and has no arms. So
And Swift's starting to get to that point where this almost feels like a yearly thing for him.
Yeah.
Comes out, looks dynamic, and then just gets nicked up, and then
I mean, he's almost becoming what everybody thought Dalvin Cook was. I mean, Dalvin Cook was the guy who was really dynamic when he's in the game, but shoulder injuries, other lower body injuries just keep on mounting up, and Swift is kind of falling right in there with his NFC North buddy.
Yeah, it's weird. I would love to just see a year of healthy DeAndre Swift and just see what he could do, but unfortunately, this is not that year. Maybe next year, and we'll just see. I mean, he's still young. It could happen.
Yeah,
everyone's injury prone until they're not. That's kind of how it goes in the NFL. So, man, I don't know. Did we miss anyone?
I think we got all the big ones that we had out.
Well, we kind of mentioned the Hockenson trade. What do you think about all those trades in the NFL?
I think I was pretty excited about the Dolphins' moves. I mean, they gained Chubb, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they ship off Chase Edmonds.
Yep.
So I thought, Raheem Mostert, this is his time. What am I like? Low-key, like favorite running backs. But then they pick up Jeff Wilson.
Yeah. So I still think Raheem Mostert's the dude.
I do too.
Yeah, that's crazy that Jeff Wilson gets shipped off. That probably means Elijah Mitchell's close to returning.
Yeah, I mean, I would think so. I mean, they need somebody behind CMC because he's also not the most reliable dude.
Right.
Funny thing about CMC, so this year, I mean, looking at the top 2 fantasy picks was Taylor or CMC. And it was, don't go CMC, go for Mr. Reliable, Jonathan Taylor. And here we are. CMC reliable, Jonathan Taylor not.
Can't take CMC because he's injured all the time.
Yeah.
And then, speaking of that, I think we missed him. Jonathan Taylor, ankle injury.
Yep.
Just keeps aggravating him, just keeps rolling it, and I don't know what to do with him.
Yep, and they just got rid of Hines.
They
So
just got rid of. Maybe that's a sign that
Deion Jackson.
Deion Jackson.
I mean, they also just fired their offensive coordinator. So
Yeah. Speaking of teams that look bad, God.
I mean, they went from Matt Ryan to Sam Ellinger. So I don't know if that made them any more competitive.
Is that an improvement? I don't know. It's terrible. It's terrible what is happening right now in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly might be a little bit excited for Chase Claypool. I think
Yeah.
the change of scenery might be good for him and give Justin Fields another guy to throw to.
I actually really like that. I mean, I know people think Justin Fields isn't that good, and maybe he's not, but at least now I think we'll find out. Like
Yeah.
when
I mean,
Darnell Mooney's your number one receiver, I love some Darnell Mooney, but he's not a number one receiver. Like
no,
get someone that can actually go up, make a play, catch it over someone, and now let's see what they can do.
no. I mean, also my guy Kadarius Toney and the Chiefs, who everybody wanted to see him with beforehand. See if he can go Tyreek Hill on everybody.
Kadarius Toney's dead to me. But to be fair, he was dead to me before he was even drafted. So I mean, yeah, he's living off that one performance versus the Cowboys and seeing what he can do with it.
Yeah, I mean, really, personally, my favorite trade was the Jaguars looking to the future with Calvin Ridley.
That was smart.
Trevor Lawrence, year 3 bump, kind of like Tua and Jalen Hurts have had. You get Calvin Ridley. I mean, that's what Peterson said, that this year is all about developing Lawrence. I mean, people are complaining about us not running the ball as much and making weird decisions in the red zone. I think he's just force feeding Trevor Lawrence and making him make decisions. So
yeah, they knew they weren't competing.
Yeah,
it's basically, I mean, a year-long preseason for them.
Yeah,
where they're trying stuff, seeing what Trevor's good at, seeing what he's not, and getting him to read and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, next year 2 in Peterson's system. Yeah, Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk in the slot, and not having to depend on Kirk as your number one guy, but have him be like your main slot guy. I'm pretty excited for that.
Now, saying that, how mad are you going to be if he's not actually reinstated? Because honestly, is that chance.
I won't be mad, because if you look, we have like one of the most interesting trade agreements here that I've ever seen. He's worth a 5th to a 2nd. There's a big window. If we sign him to a long-term deal, 2nd round pick. If we sign him or if he's only on the team, he's a 5th. If he plays a certain amount of time, he's a 4th. So
gotcha. Okay, I didn't know all that.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting. You should look up the actual trade. That's a conditional pick, and there's a lot of conditions to this pick. So I mean, it could be a pretty cheap pick, honestly. So it could vary anywhere from a 5th to a 2nd, I believe.
I think it was worth the gamble for him. I mean,
oh, for sure. I mean,
Calvin Ridley's a stud when he's not gambling on the NFL and actually playing in it.
Yeah. I mean, when he's not gambling on the Jaguars to lose. Hopefully this year he actually feels confident enough to gamble on us to win.
It is pretty funny that that's the team he was betting against when he got. I was talking to people, and I don't know if you know this. We'll just finish out on this. How did he get caught? Do you remember?
I can't remember. I feel like I remember the story when it happened, but I don't remember what it is.
I couldn't either.
It is now. I know it was while he was on his little break.
Yeah. His mental health break.
Yeah. Well, it was like people were trying to rob him, I guess, was what that was.
Oh.
Yeah. He took a break because people were like planning to like rob him.
Oh, I didn't know all that. What?
I was just reading about this yesterday. Yeah,
That's
I can't remember the whole story, but yeah, apparently it had to do with people like coming after him.
wow. Well, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Well, Calvin Ridley, hope to see you in the NFL again because he sure is exciting.
yeah, and I hope to see him in a Jaguars uniform.
Yeah, well, if he's in the NFL, you will. You will. Well, alrighty. That's we'll kind of end there for it. I think we hit all the major injuries. Do you have any closing thoughts, Richmond?
No, I mean, I think my biggest thing would be go look for Isaiah Likely on your waiver wire because I just picked him up in a league where I have Mark Andrews, so
There you go.
I'm glad I checked.
There you go. And yeah, I think roll out Devin Duvernay in all your leagues. He's he's actually looking good, and I mean, at this point, they're not looking like they have much else to throw to. So we'll see. We'll see. All righty. Well, that does it for this edition of Next Man Up. Thank you if you tuned in. Thank you to Gridiron Rating for helping us put this on. Follow me and Richmond on Twitter. Follow our compadres that couldn't be with us tonight on Twitter as well, Eric and Patrick. And then, yeah, good luck with all fantasy endeavors. Adios.